Okay, folks, welcome to My Life with Robert Burns. I'm here with Jim Thompson to chat to one of our cronies from around the Burns world. Hiya, Jim.
Hi, Douglas. Hi, everybody.
Today, we're delighted to have a blether with another well-known face on the Burns supper circuit. To tell us about his life with Robert Burns, please welcome Ian Farrell.
Hello, Douglas. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Ian.
Hi there.
How are you today?
I'm great. Great. Just another day in lockdown.
I think we're all getting used to that.
Aye, we definitely are.
Anyway, for our audience and to cheer up their lockdown, maybe you can tell us a wee bit about yourself.
Yeah, certainly will, Douglas. Personally, I was born in Cumnock. I was actually born in Emrys Avenue, born in the house. I'm the youngest of four. My next again brother is more well known in the Burns circuit, Hugh, and you've probably heard him many times. But I said I was the youngest by quite a wee bit. Some people said I was a mistake, things like that. They know this touted about me. I went to Green Mill Primary School and then on to Cumnock Academy. From there, as many other people, I went down the pit. So I went down Killach Pit, but that was probably one of my earliest experiences after the school, that is, picking up any snippets about Robert Burns. The pits were a great breeding ground for Burns scholars from all round Ayrshire. We had probably in Killach Pit, we had the lot of Anbank, Misbone, New Cumnock, of course, and further on down Kirkconnell and all these places. Not to forget the local Cumnock, Auchinleck, Catrin, everywhere. It's probably about that question, Douglas, I think.
And what did you do down the pit?
Oh, sorry, I was an apprentice colliery fitter to start with, and then served my time, qualified as a mechanical fitter. Went to Ayr College, day release for 9 years, and then I went to Kirkcaldy College for a further 3 years full time. I qualified with certificates for a chief engineer and actually a mine manager. So they moved us over after a period of time. They were trying to make tradesmen, I think, into mine managers. So I did that. From there on, I actually left Killach just about a year before it shut to go to Kirkcaldy College. I then went back and had a time in the Barney pit as well. So both the large pits in Ayrshire. I left there before it shut, as pits were in the kind of demise at that time, and got a job in Caledonian Paper as a maintenance engineer, or maintenance foreman. Then went on and I became chief engineer at Caledonian Paper. I now work as a director for a company, WGM Engineering in Glasgow, and most of our work is servicing Scottish Water. I'm happily married for the last 40 years now to my wife Anne, who hails from Muirkirk. I have a son and a daughter, both of them with partners, and I have 3 granddaughters, ages of 5 to 2, and that's been a brilliant addition to our life, I've got to say. And they've all got their Burns books, and they all know who Robert Burns is. The young ones refer to him as Bobby, but the older one, it's Robert Burns. So.
And you still stay in Ayrshire, Ian?
I stay in Knockrin, or Knockrin, as the New Cumnock boys would refer to it. So it's between Cumnock and Auchinleck now, and that's where I've never been out of Cumnock really at any time.
So do you have to travel quite a distance to your work?
Well, I've travelled to Glasgow. We have 2 service centres, we have one in Glasgow just over the back of Ibrox in Woodville Street, and we have another one in Hunting Park in Livingston. I look after both places. One services rotational equipment, and the other one has a fabrication shop and a coatings and paint shop. So we do just about everything from we're a total service provider to the utility sector in Scotland.
I noticed in my research that the job title is Director of Engineered Solutions. So you're a man for solutions.
Yeah, engineered solutions. That's right. That's because we do so many different things. Whether it's pumps, motors, rotational equipment. Our coatings team, we'll do any kind of repairs from bunds to roofs to specialist repairs and tanks. And now you'll find with carbon reduction so much an important part of everyday life, and indeed for companies like Scottish Water, they're aiming to be carbon zero by 2040. So if we can repair instead of replace, it's not only a cheaper option, but it saves a lot of carbon, not only on the manufacture of equipment, but haulage, very often from the continent. So that's the name of the game now for us, is to create improvements through our repair processes.
And being a very, very eco-friendly business then?
Yes, that's the aim for us as well. We've got fleets now of electric vans, different things, and we're just trying to do our part. And we've also got our carbon targets that will be year-on-year improvements, and that's what everybody's trying to do that now. We also were involved. Jim will be glad to hear this one, probably, that we've been EV charging units in for Police Scotland, all over Police Scotland premises. So they are also moving to fleets of rechargeable cars.
Very good. And at the moment, are you managing to get to work, or are you having to work from home?
At the moment, I'm working from home due to my wife has to shield. So I'm getting the work done from home. It's quite frustrating at times because having 2 workshops to look after and my whole workforce being there, it can be difficult at times to tie the guys down. Yeah. So you don't know if they're in the office just looking at the phone ringing, or they're being busy doing something.
So we've got you to do this in your leisure time when you're not looking at a wee screen.
I think at leisure time as well, anything to do with Robert Burns, you'll expend any amount of leisure time, and obviously to meet you guys and also some of the members of Newcomer Burns Club.
And while we're talking about leisure time, let's just finish off. Any other hobbies and interests apart from Burns?
We're doing a bit of walking now. We love our garden at the back. We spend a lot of time there. There's a lot of good walks around Cumnock now. I used to play a bit of golf, more regular, but just very odd occasionally now. And the rest of the time is probably with Burns.
Well, that can't be a bad thing. As we've mentioned Burns a few times, I'll hand over to Jim and get him to talk to you about your interest in Burns.
Thank you. Thanks, Douglas.
Ian, you went to Cumnock Academy, so...
I did so.
I dare say, like me, that's where your interest in Burns would start.
Very much so, Jim. And probably around about the same kind of sources. Mr. McCallum, for me, was the certainly I see Jimmy at the school, but more I was able to spend a bit of time with Jimmy McCallum at Logan Gate. And it was one of my first Burns suppers. I heard them reciting Death and Dr. Hornbook. And I've got to say that at that moment, if I wasn't hooked before it, because of my family connections, I was hook, line and sinker then. And I can remember that night well, getting home and deciding, I'm just going to read this Death and Dr. Hornbook. And I woke up at 4 a.m, flat on the floor with my face in the Burns book. I started reading it, but I think a couple of whiskies had got the better of me. I fell asleep, but that was me hooked.
And obviously you move on from there in terms of working in Killach. Again, being a son of a miner and been miners all my days, it was very much a part of life, Burns.
Oh, it definitely was. I tell a true story, Jim, about the Killach cage. The cage in the Killach held 150 men, 3 decks, 50 men in each deck. And it was, it hurtled up and down about 26 feet a second. And you used to, as you got near the surface, there was another shaft for ventilation purposes. It was drilled at an angle basically to the surface. So as you come up past it, that was the way you faced. So you're able to see the sky for the first time. And as you came up, the sky was glorious blue. Then there was a big cheer would go up right through the 150 guys. So the bullers knew they were going bulling that night, or the golfers, or anybody walking their dogs. So if you came up and it was grey, and none way when we've got the horizontal rain, there would be quite a different cheer would go with a few swear words. And I always remember that time. I was only about 16. We were all packed into the top deck of the cage, and it was one of the days. And there was this, oh no, what are we going to do tonight? And it was an old boy from New Cumnock turned and said to me, "Never mind, son, we'll just have a nick with Burns." And it was times like that that really would get to you. These guys, they were all year round Burns men. It didn't matter if it was rain or shine. They had something to do.
You mentioned the Logan Gate as well, a club I thoroughly enjoy going and speaking at, as you know.
Yeah.
You should maybe tell the folk who are watching a bit about the Logan Gate Burns Club.
I first went into Logan Gate around about 1990, 1991. I was a guest of a pit colleague, Jack Guthrie. That was where it was magical to me, Logan Gate. As you know, tightly packed in, not necessarily having a top table as such, a few speakers there, but interspersed amongst the hall, other guys who would stand up and give a song or a poem. And again, it opened up this world. These were excellent Burns men. As I spoke before about Jimmy McCallum and Hughie Mitchell being the go-to people. If you were stuck for a meaning of a word or a phrase or something, Hughie and Jimmy were known to debate single words for a whole night. You know, what this meant and the different meanings behind sayings or phrases or anything that associated with Burns. Logan Gate for me, it's the same fee as it was when it started. A very proud club, a federated club right through, and made up a lot of good people. You always get the best of order speaking there, and it's really for me. I would never miss being there.
Aye, you've recently celebrated an anniversary as well. Is that not correct?
Yeah, they're through now, through the 60th. I think you may have spoken at the 60th. And now through, I think, 62nd that we're through, and looking very much forward, hopefully, to other anniversaries going forward. I can remember the 50th. It was a great night, and a night at that time we managed to all the talent was sourced from inside the club, that we were able to do everything ourselves. Probably like other clubs now, it becomes a bit more difficult, and invited speakers are very much the kind of state of play.
The first time I spoke to Hugh Mitchell, he chapped the door at Cumnock Police Office and to make him up to speak. And sitting in the corner was Jimmy McCallum, and he's wheelchair at the time. And after I'd finished, he says to me, "Do you still remember, Thompson, what I told you?" I says, "Aye, Warm Reekins hyphenated, Jimmy."
Exactly. But no, it's the thing that Jimmy, he used to say to me, or he didn't say to me directly, he passed on through his son Bobby that I had potential. Says, "That boy's got potential." So there was no way you would ever get your head blown up with Jimmy. That was the way it, and just keep practicing. But Jimmy would be also, you would find a poem maybe posted through your letterbox. Like I would get maybe the Deluge, I can remember, was posted through W.D. Cocker, and it was just handwritten. I think this would be a good poem for you to learn. So that was the way you were kind of brought on as well. And other things, Robert Service poetry would also be kind of there you go, there's some good stuff to get involved in. And it was. And it was good to be able to recite at St Andrew's nights and different things. Because that's what the club was about, bringing people on.
Well, you've mentioned reciting. Are you going to give us a few lines or something, or a poem? Or?
I maybe give a wee few lines of, I could start with Address of Beelzebub. This is a particularly favourite poem of mine. It showed the depth to Burns's education and his deep feeling for Scotland. And I think it really brought, I think, a lot home to me sometimes what people think of you in a kind of nasty way. And Burns kind of brought it out. And it was really brought round about the kind of 500 Highlanders and their families that wanted to go to Canada, really in search of freedom. Burns initially didn't think that you should have to leave your native soil, but obviously he saw what was going on, and they're basically been driven out a few years later. Long life, my lord, and health to yours, unscathed by hung-up Highland boors. Lord, grant me Duddy, desperate beggar, with dirk, claymore, or rusty trigger. Me twin all Scotland a life she likes, is lambkins, like a knife. Faith you and Applecross were richt to keep the Highland hounds in sicht. I doubt that they'd be nae better than let them yinsuit out the water, when up among they lakes and seas, they'll make what rules and laws they please. Some daring Hancock or a Franklin may set their Highland blood a rankling. Some Washington again may heed them, or some Montgomery fearless lead them. Till God knows what may be affected, when by such heeds and hearts directed, fair dunghill sons of dirt and mire may to partition ricks aspire, nae sage north now, nor Saga Sackville, to watch and premier o'er the pack vile.
So you are a Burns scholar, as I know firsthand, having discussed it with you. Is there any part of the Burns that you're particularly interested in, or you like more than others?
I do like the poetry, probably most of all. I like poetry where the feeling is in there, and you can pick up the most wonderful things for a single verse to a single poem. And the kind of last verse, I don't have it to memory, but the last verse of the Address to the Unca Gid, for example, to me, it shows Burns's deep understanding of the human heart, and how there's so many different ways and makeup of the individual. And I think more than anything, at the age Burns was, to actually understand that. Of course, I like poems getting a bit of fire out, like the Address of Beelzebub. I also like the humour that Burns builds into the satire. And it's where I think satire is a thing that's been very much lost today. People look for stand-up comedians telling jokes, but satire is something different, as you know. It's not just about delivering a punchline, it's about delivering a whole story, a whole way of life kind of style, as I see it. And Burns was a master at this, and I really like these bits. I like to entertain people and they go away with a kind of feel-good factor. Some people like to give Burns, or give audiences a lot of facts and things about Burns, but I like them to go away with a spring in their step, saying that was great. I really enjoyed that.
I mean, given the amount of time involved, you must have been to, I don't know how many, countless Burns suppers. Are there any that spring to mind? Have you any favourites in your memory? Well,
obviously I get invited by Hugh to go to the cottage in 2016, and that was fantastic. Just to stand in the cottage and be able to deliver poetry, and even the address. I did the address to the Haggis and Tam O'Shanter that night, and then Hugh and I did the Twee Dugs. And it was really the feeling when I went down to the address of Haggis, and you just feel the hairs in the back of your neck, that this is where it all started. You know, just standing there where the man we really worship was born, and on his birthday. You know, so there's that one. it's funny at times as well. I was across the Bailey's Irish Cream place in Dublin. I went across there. A friend of mine was running a contract with the catering, and we were in the front office of Bailey's Irish Cream. And again, it was just another experience that you have, and quite a witty, a kind of funny experience being over in Dublin. But like yourselves, I've been many places, and I'm the kind of guy, if it was getting held in a phone box or it was getting held in Albert Hall and I was available, I would be there. For it's somebody's Burns night, and if you've got the wherewithal, you've got the means, then go.
I would tend to agree, because a lot of my favourite burn suppers, apart from obviously my club burn supper, tend to be in like wee clubs, bowling clubs or a golf club or something like that, where you get, maybe 50, 60 folk in, and it's a good, goofy wee night. You'll have been at quite a few of them, I would think.
Yes, I run a burn supper for the Portland Golf Club, and it's exactly as you say. It's no stuffy. It's a night. We actually turn up with a programme with names in it, and we basically organise the night as we go. And again, I've met some fantastic people there. It's always running the first Friday in March. Therefore, normally you can get the pick of speakers. But it was a place that started in 2006. Jim Clark, you'll remember Jim well. Jim, I think, died the following year. And it was a great experience watching him speak in an audience. And a lot of speakers for yourself, Fiona Curry, Angus, Jane Brown, Joe Kennedy, all these speakers coming through the wee club, and it's a fantastic night. It just works. And Willie Stewart sings, and it just works. It's just a phenomenal wee night. And as you say, there's only about 45, 50 people there.
Aye, Jim Clark, and I remember Jim. He was a good boss to me at one point in time. Died going to a burn supper, climbing up the stairs to go into a burn supper. Just loved it. He was a walking burn supper himself. But like you. About you.
I don't know.
Right. So, are you any other ambitions in the Burns movement at all, other than what you're doing at the moment?
Going to one of the things I found before I get into that, we ran for many years a burn supper out of Caledonian paper. We actually ran for 25 years, and I think it kind of fell away because there was more people no wanting it than people wanting it, which was sad. And we actually moved it around Kilmarnock and Ayr. We started away in the old Labour Club, or Burlington Berties. We were up in there for about 3 years, and then we were down in the Hunting Lodge along the road. We went to the Horizon in Ayr, and we finished off for many years in the Brigadoon. And one of the things I would like to say, when you talk about people's achievements maybe in Burns, the greatest thing I felt at that time, I get 4 guys converted into doing bits. They would never have probably come near a burn supper. And I started them away addressing a haggis and moved them on to other readings and cheering nights. And to me, that was one of the kind of lasting legacies, that I get 4 people converted, and they enjoyed it. They didn't do it as a chore, and I felt that's part of our job nowadays, is to try and get as many people engaged as we can. But going through to probably, I'm going to be principal speaker at Brigton in 2023. And that was one which was meant to be next year, but because of COVID, everything moved a year. And I'm really looking forward to that. Brigton Burns Club, they're a big club, that more involved in a lot of the charities that are around. So I'm kind of looking at that for both of those reasons. And I know a couple of guys there, and they've kind of approached me a few times. So I'm really delighted to be going there.
Aye, secretary's a good man, Ian Gordon.
Yes, yeah. I've met Ian a couple of times.
Aye, he's a cracking speaker as well.
Yeah.
And what about the Logan Gate, and as you're going forward, have you got enough coming through in terms of running it?
We've got another couple of guys coming through now to help run it. I've just I'll dedicate myself to getting speakers and organising that part, and basically coaching them on the night. It can be very daunting, I think, chairing a Burns supper at any time, as you'll agree. But if you're to stand up your own club, you're under the tightest of scrutiny by all the members. They're not so keen to cut you any slack like you maybe would be in going to chair one at another place. But being
Ian,
involved. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say you've talked a bit about Logangate. Have you been a member of any other clubs, or are you a one club man?
No, I've been a member, or still a member of Cumnock Burns Club as well. The Cumnock Burns Club a few years back went under, not under as such. They just stopped having it. They had funds, etc. But we managed to get it going again, and we've had a couple of good nights there. I think Cumnock Burns Club, maybe it didn't move enough with, I think, kind of modern times. It was, for a long time, it was held on a Monday night. It's now a Friday night, but it's not in the kind of mainstream, I would say, of the Burns calendar. It has to sit at the front end. Also, Cumnock Cronies Burns Club, which takes place in the Dumfries Arms, and again has been a well established club. I went in probably 5 years ago to help them out when Alec Rutherford had taken ill 5-6 years ago, and I'm still there helping them. So these things happen in the Burns world.
Yeah, I think it's important that clubs that are in a bit of bother, that there are people around that are prepared to go in and help and get them started again, and hopefully boost their numbers and such like.
Yes, well, definitely. I think again, if you're there and available, you should try and help these clubs out. And I'm actually finding now we're leaning quite heavily on some of the guys from New Cumnock to help us. And I think last year all the speakers at Cumnock came from New Cumnock Burns Club.
Ian, can I take you back to talking about the Burns and the Burns story itself? Is there any characters in the Burns story that you have a particular interest in? Some people think of Tam O'Shanter, and some people think of Jean Armour. Is there any particular characters that attract you?
Certainly, my favourite satire is Holy Willie Sprayer, Willie Fisher. And I think I look at Willie, and Willie was in a no-win kind of situation. I think he was the front line. He probably took the bullets for Daddy Auld on one side, and he was a bit of the butt of the jokes on the other side. And certainly one of the kind of line near the end, and it's when Auld with hanging lip, hanging head gets snaking. And it's portrayed differently in some of the books, as if, but he's got the finger in Auld as well as probably setting up Willie Fisher, and I think there's a lot of the satires there. It's probably a lot of truths and things that went on at the time. I mean, as Burns obviously told it through his poems and as I say, wonderful satire. But Willie is a guy that kind of, let's say, intrigues me. But I was just, I was sorry, Jim, I know, was researching, obviously, a book. And because some of the facts were not known, I don't think Jim could proceed fully with that book. Or some of the facts, I think they were just verbal, Jim. I think you found out they weren't written down anywhere, or so-called facts were verbal.
I can't trace the Mauchline Kirk Parish took Gavin Hamilton to the Justice's Court at Kilmarnock, and I can't trace the records. And I would be saying things that would, in terms of if I published anything, I would be saying things about Burns's naivety in concerning Hamilton that would probably offend quite a few members of the Burns movement. So
Yeah.
without the data trail, it becomes difficult.
Yeah. Been other characters that interest me, like John Syme is one of the guys that I felt John Syme single-handedly, I think, whether rightly or wrong at the time, he was acting in the best interests of Jean Armour and trying to raise funds for her. And obviously going to the first biographer was her choice, but he gathered an amazing amount of money. The correspondence that went out from him, I think he played a phenomenal part and was a true friend, I think, to Burns. And again, some of the writing, and some of the letters you get in, he was a guy that could make a joke at Burns. There was a well-known one when Burns had to carry the minister off in the rowing boat, and Burns got his new boots wasted, and Syme just laughed the head off. you know, and these things, and Burns wasn't too happy, but it showed a true friendship. You can make a joke about your pal, and a Stamp House Johnny, as he would call him. But I thought they went in when the story about them clearing out Burns's desk, and they found the correspondence, obviously, that somebody had to go back legally. All the correspondence between Clarinda probably and things like that had to be given back. And I think having a true biographer going in there, you'd have got a far wider picture of some of the Burns story. But they did. I mean, John Syme to me did a fantastic job with what he had at that time.
Yeah, certainly. Anything that involves letters and such, like we've been studying some of the letters in our Wednesday night sessions on Zoom, and there is a frustration when you're only able to see one side of the correspondence, and you don't get the whole story.
Yeah, as I say, I go again a wee bit to the Syme Cunningham correspondence, which it was in the Burns Chronicle over about. It actually took them about 8 years at the time when the Burns Chronicle came out annually. I think it was between 1934 and 42 that they published the letters for the first time. So you could actually see what was going on both sides. And a lot of it as Burns became ill and thereafter what they had to do and how when they approached people in Edinburgh to try and get them to donate, the doors closed. Those doors that were flung open when Burns was there to entertain them, we found that they were shut firmly in the face. And I think it was, for a place like Dumfries, I think the amount of money that they gathered compared to Edinburgh, I think it's about fivefold. It was phenomenal what they thought about Burns as opposed to the good people, allegedly, of Edinburgh.
Well, you've threatened to recite some other stuff. I'm going to have to push you and see if we can get you to do something. I mean, I've heard your Death and Dr. Hornbook, and I've heard you doing it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Maybe a wee bit long for us. Is there something slightly shorter you could do?
We could do maybe a few verses of Holy Willie if you want. In fact, I've not brushed them up, but maybe I try them. I was never one for getting dressed up as Holy Willie. I did it a couple of times initially, and I felt after Hughie Mitchell dealt with the story about he met the guy and said, I quite liked you as wee Willie Winky. Says, well, I'll take that hint and I'll not dress up again. Says, O thou that in the heavens dost dwell, as it pleases best thyself, sends into heaven and into hell, offer thy glory, and offer only good or ill they've done afore thee. I bless and praise thy matchless might, and thousands thou hast left in night, that I am here before thy sight, for gifts and grace, a burning and a shining light to all this place. Yet what was I for my generation, that I should get sick exaltation, I who deserve most just damnation for broken laws, 6,000 years ere my creation through Adam's cause. When from my mother's womb I fell, the Michter plunged me deep in hell. He gnashed my gooms and weep and wail in burning lakes, where damned devils roar and yell, chained to their stakes. Yet I am here, a chosen sample, to show thy grace is great and ample. I am here, a pillar of thy temple, strong as a rock, a guide, a buckler, and example to all thy flock. But yet, O Lord, confess I must, at times I'm fashed with fleshly lust, and sometimes too in worldly trust vile self gets in. But thou remembers we are dust, defiled with sin.
Well done.
It's I just think it's Burns at his best in terms of the satire, though.
Oh, definitely, I would agree. It's just, I think it's there in almost every verse there. I mean, the third line to me hits you like an absolute thunderbolt. The first two lines are quite kind of gentle. He weaves you in. Then he hits you with, sends you into heaven and 10 to hell. You know, it's like an Exocet missile coming in. You know, and it just brings it all home to you that you could have a ticket for the bus. You know, you're a ticket for getting up the way. It didn't matter what you done, you were still going there. But the poor wee lad and lass that maybe run their life, if they maybe weren't deemed to be gone, they run their life as pure as anything, you're still one they gone. And I think it brought a lot home at that time.
The first 6 lines entirely covers the argument between Calvinism and Arminianism.
Aye.
Predestination, and it does it so uniquely in 6 lines of verse.
Aye. And it just, I think you guys had asked about other poets and why Burns. But Burns always was in my family. Obviously, my brother he entertained us. But my mother knew every word what he was saying, but she never sang, she never recited poetry. But she could help somebody immediately they stopped. My mother would do a racer at the TV, and I mean a racer. If the singer was one of these old lang syne, you know, the pronunciation of the word sign really ground their gears, or somebody would build in for the sake of, you know, and it was, but Burns was always in our house, in our kind of everyday language. You know, and that to me, it was where we were. My mother and father, my father was born before the First World War, and my mother during that time. They lived through that. They lived through a depression. They lived through a Second World War, and it was no wonder to me that how much feeling Burns had, and the truth that was in the writings of Burns.
You talked about family there, and you talked about doing the Twa Dogs with Hugh. Is that a fairly frequent thing that you share a top table with Hugh?
No, but sometimes seen us going 2 and 3 years without clapping eyes in each other. And similarly with some of the other speakers. I've actually had 3 partners, let's say, in the Twa Dogs. I've had Hugh Mitchell, of which we probably recited at about 40 or 50 suppers. Hugh and I have probably done it about 3 or 4 times. And I've now also a chap with the name of Jim McMillan. Again, he's a Cumnock chap, but he now lives in Inverary. And the 2 of us run about each other when we were boys. And it's actually the closest affinity I've felt performing the poem. That the 2 of us seem to be on the same wavelength right through. And it's a strange feeling. But going back to sharing top tables, as I said, very, very well, it could be 3 years and then you could end up on a string of suppers together, as I suppose happens with most other guys.
And taking poems like the Twa Dogs and Holy Willie, you know, quite epic poems. Have you got any ambitions to learn any other poems that you don't currently do?
I have an ambition, and I'm going to try and do it this year for next year's suppers, to learn the whole of the Jolly Beggars.
Wow.
And also be able to sing the songs and just have a wee bit of change in dress, the jacket, hat, fiddle, you know, to go through that. That is an ambition I have.
So it's a one-man performance playing all the characters.
Yeah,
Wow.
I would like to do that.
That would be a bit special.
That's my ambition. And there, I would also like, again, coming into some of the satire, I would like to learn and get engaged with people in libel summons. I only know parts of it, but I would like to do a bit there, a wee bit in the entertaining side, which I think we can bring into events, just to, as let's say, keep the whole thing going. So that excites me in there. Man Was Made to Mourn, again, only verses of that I bring into Immortal Memories. I would like to learn that again. Very, very dynamic.
And do you have a particular technique for learning poetry?
No, well, just reading it. Normally, what I would do, I recite it in the car, and sometimes you get through roundabouts. You don't know if you went round them or through them. But that's where I start to perfect it, and I'll start to just work away at the beginning, and then I'll learn a wee bit about the end, and just try and strengthen it up as I go. It's no really anything special.
And when do you expect to have the Jolly Beggars ready?
Well, I'll have to be ready quite soon, I would think. No, it'll be probably the end of the year, I think. Then we'll see whether we can go. I would plan to go at Logan Gate next year with it. That would be the trial. If I can pull it off there, I'll do it anywhere.
Well, we'll take you up on that, because we're still running these things. I think we'll get you on to do the Jolly Beggars. I think that would be tremendous.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that at the turn of the year. That's a bit of a challenge now.
That's something to look forward to.
Yeah, if I can manage to get a dragoon's jacket to fit me or something, that'll be fine.
Well, I think we're kind of running out of our time. Is there anything else you want to ask Ian, Jim?
No, just one question. How many poems can you recite at the moment, roughly?
I think there's only about 7 or 8, Jim. I'm not massive on, you know.
I mean, that's obviously just Burns, 7 or 8.
Well, I've got 2 or 3 service, and as I say, the Deluge was posted to me, so I had to learn that.
Well, the first time I heard the Deluge, it was Hughie Mitchell that did it. So,
aye.
It's always one that I've enjoyed.
Oh, aye, Hughie. Well, Hughie would have got it the same way as I got it for a mentor called Jimmy McCallum.
It was Hughie that persuaded me to do it in 1996. That's when I started learning the Deluge, and I've been doing it since.
Aye.
Hughie Mitchell.
Aye. Brilliant. I was Hughie. He did probably the funniest Ruthie cronies I've ever heard in my life. Hughie, it was absolute scream. He had guys talking to bricks and everything. It was just did this when you went into. He went in. He says, "Drink for everybody." That's how he opened it. Drink for everybody, barman. And he goes down. He puts the price down at 1 pint. Right, the barman says, "What are you going on?" No, he says, "When I drink, everybody drinks. When I pay, everybody pays." That was just his opening gambit, and it was hilarious. And Hughie had it in his head that he had to keep changing it and tweaking it, and it was one of the worst things he ever done. I says, "Singers don't change songs, Hughie. You had the perfect mix. You should just have kept it going."
It was Hugh that said to me once he was wanting to come back as a singer, because nobody ever says I've heard that one before.
Aye, that's right. Aye.
Very good.
Well,
he was a great character.
Oh dear. What was it he said? I got him to go up to my mother's widows club one night. He says, "I've been in Cumnock 55 years and I'm still an outsider."
Aye. They say Trubach. Trubach Rose. Hey, why? Sadly missed. Big Huey. Sadly missed. But there you go. There's a lot has went that way.
Yeah. Well, it's a kind of sad note for us to end this on, talking about but some great memories.
Yeah, definitely, guys.
Yeah, tremendous. So it just leaves me to say thanks very much, Ian, for telling us about your life with Robert Burns, and thanks for giving up your time.
No problem, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Hope to see you soon. Cheers.